Hi Pink Class, thought we'd just check in with you. I know you've been really enjoying listening to Ghost Posts with Mrs Merritt, so I thought I'd do the next bit with you. Hope you're well and enjoy the next part. Mr Galway looked up from the crossword she was doing behind the bar. Sorry Becky, I can't let anyone see Spooky Steve. He's very ill and I'm under orders from Dr Crystal. Can you at least tell me which room he's staying in? Becky pleaded. I'm afraid not, sorry. Becky turned away from the bar. What should we do now? Asked Jimmy. Becky spotted a familiar face over in the corner, staring out to the sea. It was Carl, Spooky Steve's cameraman. Hello, you two, he said in a friendly voice when they walked over to him. I've just been admiring the view. Thistlewick really is a beautiful place. Listen, I'm sorry about the other night. That ghost was pretty terrifying, wasn't it? And it's terrible what's been happening since then. Becky and Jimmy nodded. Anyway, where are my manners? Sit yourself down. They flopped into the comfy chairs opposite Carl. He was a lot more talkative without his director around. I've been working on hunting ghosts for 3 years now. You get used to seeing some creepy things, like the stuff that happened with little Lord Thistlewick's ghost. I don't usually get spooked by it, but that one at the post office. Walter Anion, Becky prompted. Walter Anion. Well, he was something else. Shook me right up. To see a ghost take the shape of a fully formed person in front of you is really rare. Most people, even ghost hunters like Steve, never see one. Walter must be really angry to want to curse people, said Becky. And Carl nodded. When they die, people only leave behind a ghost if they have unfinished business. All the ghosts we find in the show have something important they didn't achieve when they were alive, which they have to do as a ghost before they can settle. Quite often, the ghosts we find are upset or angry. Maybe Walter Anion has a grudge against the post office. But what's going to happen to hunting ghosts now? Asked Jimmy. The cameraman took a sip from his beer. Craig, my director, has been running around like a headless chicken. He wanted to leave Thistlewick the second we got out of the post office. He arranged for a boat to take us back to the mainland in an hour or two. We're going to work on other projects while Steve's recovering. What about Steve? Will he go with you? Surely he's too ill to travel, asked Becky. Well, that's what he says, Carl said doubtfully. Do you believe him? Do you think he was cursed, like he said the other night? I'm not sure. Craig is quite easy to read. He's just a bully, as I'm sure you've seen. Like all bullies, as soon as something more threatening than him comes along, he wants to run away. But Steve is a bit of a mystery, and he's never reacted to a ghost like that before. Something's fishy going on with him. I don't really think that makes sense. Steve being cursed, Jimmy thought out loud. Everyone else who has been cursed received a letter, but Steve didn't get a letter, did he? None of the rest of us who were in that room night had been cursed either, said Becky. That's a good point, said Carl. Do you know that it took a long time to persuade Steve to come to Thistlewick? Your mayor has been contacting the TV show for the last 2 years, but Steve has always been reluctant. In the end, Craig had to force him into it. We really need to talk to Steve, said Becky. What about? I can't claim to be an expert, but I've been on plenty of ghost hunts with Steve. Carl looked over to the bar. Craig was there settling his bell with Miss Galloway. I don't have long now, but mayhap I can help. We really need to stop the curse. Do you know of any ways to even do it? Asked Becky. Carl weighed some thoughts up in his mind as he finished his drink. There is something I saw Steve do once, ages ago, with a particular troublesome ghost. Becky and Jimmy leaned forwards eagerly as Carl continued. You'll need to bring Walter Anion's ghost back, I'm afraid. You have to confront him again. But the problem is, it takes a phenomenal amount of energy for a ghost to form a shape as detailed as he's done. His energies will be very low. What do you mean? Asked Jimmy. Ghosts and spirits work by taking energy from the environment around them and using it to create a presence that we can see and hear. That's why you often feel cold when you're around ghosts. They've sucked all their heat energy out of the place they're in. That means that you need to give Walter lots of energy to make him reappear. You can do that by holding a calling. What's that? Becky was sitting at the edge of her seat. Carl explained. A calling involved a group of people standing in a circle in the dark asking a ghost to appear. That seems a bit too easy, said Becky. People have been doing it for centuries, and as I said, I've seen Steve doing it, so it can work. You'll need to get everyone who's been affected by the curse to come along to the calling. They all have a connection with the ghost now, so the more cursed people there are, the greater the chance of him showing up. And what do we do once he's appeared? Asked Jimmy. You reverse the curse, said Carl. The ghost is cursing all the letters in the post office, right? So I think if you write a letter to Walter Anion, it'll be cursed like all the others. You can deliver the letter to him by placing it in the centre of the circle. Hopefully, when he reads it, he'll be defeated by his own curse, and that will cancel it out. Becky nodded. That sounds like a great idea. We'll give it a go when it gets darker tonight. The director walked over to them and glared at the children from under his baseball cap. Steve was right. It was a bad idea coming here. I'll be glad if I never see this place again. Carl, I don't pay you to talk to people, especially not these two. They've caused enough problems for us. Our boat's in, so let's get off the island. He stormed off. Carl smiled at Becky and Jimmy, apologetically. I'll keep my fingers crossed that it works for both of you, he said. Well, we hope you enjoyed the next part of Ghost Post and listen out for Mrs. Merritt as she's going to be reading the next bit. We hope you're keeping safe and talk to you soon.